Alright, Shalom. We the Hebrew Israelites. Come out here week in and week out. Prophesy the downfall of the third Babylon, aka America. But first and foremost, I want to say call Halayim, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Harakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Had the Rock, the Way, aka Great Millstone, where I learned this truth from and who rule well. And that's who I refer to when I say Had the Rock, which is the way and the Lashuan Tahar, the pure language. I want to say salutations to the Bakiyar, the elect, the 144,000. That's 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. 12 tribes of Israel consist of you so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous of America. The 144,000 being the governing body within the 1/3. The rest of the 1/3 comprises of elect men, women, and children. Shalom to you Israelites scattered due to the diaspora and also the triangular trade. So our people come looking like different ethnicities, having various complexions. So this is not a black thing. We're not the black Hebrew Israelites. We're just Hebrew Israelites. Shalom to those that died in this truth. It says the dead should be raised up first. Those that will be accompanying Yahweh Shah on his return, including our king, King Mashah, who is King David. And as always, it's an honor and privilege, honor and blessing to continue to do this work. The water Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah Ba'ashem Harakadash for answering my prayers and permitting me to do such. Baba Kashah Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah Ba'ashem Harakadash allowed us to be an edifying camp to at least one member of the Bakiyar. Today's topic is going to be entitled, who do you think you are? A God? You know, because these Edomites, these so-called white people, start calling themselves white in the 1600s due to, you know, the Bacon rebellions. You know, and they started calling themselves white based on their color or by race, or race by color construct. You know, they think that, you know, everything they say needs not to be questioned. They think that they have the truth. They think that their education is actually legitimate, and really is just a foundation of lies, man. You know, they always have the same rhetoric, man. You niggas are sub-Saharan, you're from Africa, which we're not from Africa. And yes, that continent was named after Italian general Leo Scipio Africanus. You know, it was called Kham, which meant hot. But, you know, during 70 AD, we had fled into Africa through, or from Egypt through, from Israel through Egypt, through Ethiopia, and migrated, you know, through the Sahel belt, which was basically, you know, the Saharan desert, creating a buffer zone between those that fled and the Roman armies, man. And then eventually we resided in West Africa, in which we were among the Hamites, which is another nation of dark-skinned people. You know, as the compact Bible dictionary says, there's a difference between the darker nations. You know, so in Esau's mind, he'll say that, you know, we're nothing but sub-Saharan, We're spear chuckers. We live in shit huts, you know, which it says in Genesis, and I'm gonna get it right now, that our forefather Jacob, which his children have the same spirit, right? It said that they dwelt in tents. And that's also a part of the Feast of Tabernacles, right? And this is how this damn devil tries to insert his so-called white supremacy, man, and mocking us, right? This is Genesis chapter 25, verse 27, and the boys, well, I'll start with the whole story. This is Genesis chapter 5, verse 21. And Isaac, the father of Jacob, you know, the spirit that is associated with Yahweh Shai, you know, was Isaac. You know, the proof in the pudding is St. Matthew. And if you could receive it in the spirit, you know, but St. Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. And this also proves regeneration, which means back in the gene. You know, because when you go to 2nd Ezra, the 14th chapter, if I'm not mistaken, it talks about how we live again. We have many lives. But this is St. Matthew chapter 1, verse 1, the book of the generation of Yahweh Shai, who the world inly calls Jesus Christ, which the letter J is only 500 years old. Came about in 1524. So we'll make it 502 years old. Gasimio is the one that fathered it. You know, so his name is not Jesus, his name is Yahweh Shai, which will be, if it was to be translated into English, it will be Joshua. Right? It says Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, the son of David, which the son of David was Isaac. I mean, the son of David was Solomon. It says the son of Abraham, which the son of Abraham was Isaac. You know? So going back to Genesis, chapter 25, verse 21. Says, and Isaac entreated Yahweh, because that's the name of the Heavenly Father. It's not Yahuwah, it's not Jehovah, you know, but his name is Yahweh, which means he is, he exists, you know. And the only way to have access to the Heavenly Father is to go through his son, which his son is the first and last spirit that he created, man. And through his son, all things were created, man. You know, and the water Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, man. So we have to glorify Yahweh Shai on this side with, you know, all of our being. Right? But continuing, it says, for his wife, because she was barren, and Yahweh was entreated of him, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. Right? Because it seemed, and you get this a lot, you know, that she couldn't, you know, have children. You know, some women, maybe with some men, you know, I'm talking about in this wicked society, they might be, you know, together for years, but never have kids. And then that same woman will probably leave that man and go with another man, and then she'll conceive and have a child with that man. You know? But with the first man, where she didn't have a child with, that would be, you know, her being barren. You know, but in the ancient world, a woman wasn't allowed to leave her husband, man. You know? Only a man could, you know, divorce due to adultery. You know? It says, And Yahweh was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived, and the children struggled together within her. So they were fighting, man. That's what basically struggling is. You know, because there are two different spirits, and you know, through the spirit I believe, and you know, I'll be corrected. You know, but in the spirit I believe that was Cain and Abel coming back, man. You know, and that hatred in the spirit of Cain was still present. You know, as when you go to Romans chapter 9, and then also, you know, thinking about Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 3, how he knew Jeremiah before he was even born, and formulated in the womb, right? It says, this is Romans chapter 9. Now this is Paul speaking to the Israelites that were in Rome, because we're scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, man. You know, it says, for the children being not yet born. So this is talking about Jacob and Esau. Why? How do we know that? Well, when you go up to verse well, I'll just start at verse 9. It says, for this is the word of promise. At this time will I come, and Sarah shall have a son. And not only this, but when Rebekah also had conceived by one, even by our father Isaac. It says, for the children being not yet born. So the children being not yet born. You know, neither have done any good or evil, that the purpose of Yahweh according to election might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth. So the Most High already had it altered that Jacob was going to be the principal son, that the election of the nation of Israel were going to establish their lineage. You know, and that's before they were even born. As it says, you know, verbatim, for the children being not yet born. Right? Verse 12, it says, it was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger. You know, and this happened even among the tribes, man. You know, with Reuben being the elder, he got demoted for sleeping with one of his father's concubines. So therefore, you know, Judah became the principal son, which today are the so-called Negroes, man. You know, it says, as it is written, Jacob have I loved. So Jacob have he loved, man. And when you go back to Genesis, dealing with Cain and Abel, you will have to come to the conclusion that, you know, Abel was loved by Yahweh, by Shem Yahweh Shah, due to, you know, his obedient sacrifice, right? It says, but Esau have I hated. So Esau, the progenitor of the so-called white man, which, you know, I did a little studying, that he was born around, and Jacob as well, was born around 1786 BCE, man. You know? It says, what shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with the Most High? Yeah, is there unrighteousness with the Most High? And that's nearly the same rhetoric in which Cain spoke. You know, let me get it, man, so I could, you know, allow the spirit to, you know, do its thing. Right. I'll just start at the top, just so you know if there's someone watching, it could be thorough. This is Genesis chapter 4, verse 1. It says, in Adam, which Adam also had the same spirit that was associated with Yahweh Shah. You know, knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived. And when you see the terminology, someone knowing someone as a man and woman, that means they had sex. You know, which sex goes into cutting. You know, because usually, which, you know, very few men in this society actually had a virgin. You know, when you have sex with her, you're cutting into her hymen and breaking the blood, you know, proving that she is a virgin, man. It says, and bare Cain and said, I have gotten a man from Yahweh. And she again bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. So basically he was a man of the field. You know, that boy Cain, right? Just as when he came back in his next life on this side of the flood as Esau. It says that in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground a offering unto Yahweh, right? But when you go into, I believe it's Genesis the 9th chapter, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah requires, you know, blood. You know, he requires animal sacrifice, which they didn't have the law written in stone or written on stone or tablets. You know, back then it was more oral. You know? It says, and Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof, and Yahweh had respect unto Abel and to his offering. Why? Because Abel obeyed. You know, I watched the brother, and I did a video titled that, you know, which was associated with a dream I had of Yahweh Shah and how disfigured he actually was due to the Romans and him getting flogged, which I did a little research. You know, they have different flogging tools, but I believe they used the worst one just based upon the dream, you know, which is called the scorpion, you know, which is got metal at the end, glass. You know, and I think those Roman soldiers that, you know, crucified him, humiliated him, I think they really, you know, I believe, only based upon my belief, I believe they really, really fucked his face up, marred his face, man. You know? But, so, going back to what I was saying, Abel, you know, he had more respect from the Heavenly Father due to his him being obedient, him obeying, you know. And Cain, which his spirit is off, is not upright, you know, he wasn't obedient, man. He went about to try to establish his own righteousness, which in this particular spirit, there's no righteousness. And this is the same God that's ruling today, man, and his children. It says, but unto Cain and to his offering he had no respect. So Yahweh didn't have no respect for Cain's offering. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. So he was very angry, man. And his countenance changed. It fell into, you know, into that dark mode. You You know, that evil nigga mode. Because back then, you know, the so-called white man, he had his color, man. He had melanin. You know? So, he turned into old dog from Menace to Society, man. You know? It says, and Yahweh said unto Cain, why art thou wroth? And why is thou countenance fallen? Verse 7, it says, if thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door. And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. And Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel and his brother and slew him. So he killed him, man. Because, you know, his sacrifice wasn't good enough. Not knowing that he was already set up in the spirit to not be upright and to the sacrifice in that manner, because that was going to be the line in which the sons of the wicked came out of. And the sons of the wicked is the reason why the Heavenly Father flooded the earth, but still preserved that same line that came out of Seth, which was the third son that they had, you know, to continue that the lineage of the election, in which this goes back to Isaiah the 28th chapter, with stammering lips and another tongue shall he speak to these people. You know, as the Spirit is, you know, working with me. But going back to Genesis chapter 25, verse 22, it says, and the children struggled together within her. So that was that same animosity that Cain had for Abel. You know, and that's the reason why I think Jacob was able, you know, stepping back into his lot. Right? And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of Yahweh. And Yahweh said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. So we're different from these Edomites, man. You know, concerning these Edomites, we're not the same. Jacob is not the same as Esau. You know? It says, and the one people shall be stronger than the other. So the one people, the people on this song, the so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous of America, they're stronger than the so-called white man in all his tribes, because they're not all the same. You know, just like there's different tribes of Jake, there's different tribes of E. You know, wicked E. Right? It says, and the elder was Esau, he came out first, shall serve the younger. So, you know, there's been plenty of times in which you so-called white people were in servitude, man. You know, this last little leg of your season, of the last extension of the Roman Empire, is when you came back into power, and that was through the aid of Yahweh, man. You know, sending the Black Plague that, you know, pretty much in the modern day terminology decimated the black nobility, the Moors that ruled Europe. And they'll say, oh, you didn't rule Europe. Y'all was in Africa. And that's how you know that they don't study. They don't know shit. They just regurgitate, you know, the things that they learn as far as in history class that they intaked with a smile, thinking that that was actual history, man. Which a lot of people don't know, that the first slaves that came over here into the Americas they were from Spain. And I believe also, I'm just gonna leave it like that, from Spain. So I was gonna say England, but I think Jake still had a footprint there, you know. And then of course Scotland, Ireland, there were Jakes, you know. But they want you to believe that they were everybody. They cosplay, man. And that's why Christo Colon, which is a so-called Jew, you know, he had took Hebrew interpreters over here to the Americas, because he never set foot in America, man. He went to the islands and destroyed them, man. Massacred them, murdered them. You know? And the explorer Amerigo Vespucci is who America is actually named after. But America is a Hebrew word, Amara, which means bitter. This is a bitter place in which both kingdoms are prophesied to endure captivity. That's how we know we're the Israelites. And none of you other nations can prove that you're the Israelites through the scriptures, man. But we could prove the proximity of time in which you converted to Judaism, man. And then you had the people in the West say, okay, we're going to be the Christians, which they started calling themselves Christians in Syria, Antioch, which was really a derogatory term. Because when you read about Saul, whose name was later changed to Paul after he was taught by Yahushua when he went to the spirit world briefly, you know, he was going after those that were of the way, the Hadarak. He was going after the followers of the way, because that's what they call themselves, man. They didn't call themselves Christians, man. Right? But you still have these damn devils will say, oh, you're the 13%, we civilized you, you was in sub-Sahara, you were chucking spears and living in shit huts, and you're the 13%. It's the same rhetoric. You're always being the victim. When you're gonna stop crying? And then I was listening to Myron at the gym a few hours ago. And they had a so-called Jew on because they were really anti-Semite, if you will, on that broadcast. But they had a so-called Jew on, and he reverse Uno carded them, man. He spit the same rhetoric that these so-called white people spit at us about being a victim. That was a long time ago. So really, this is just a campaign of demonization toward the people on this side, starting with the top tribe, by these fucking Amalekites. And then once again, like I mentioned, I watched the brother Mayaka Allah from LA. He went into a video entitled "To Obey is Better Than to Sacrifice," and he was going into I think it's 1 Samuel's, and how Saul didn't slay all these cockroaches, man. These snow roaches, as you know, some people call them, man. You know, and in my spirit, man, I don't know who I am in the spirit. I really don't care. I think it's tough just being who I am, especially if I'm of the elect, all the things that I endured, but in my mind, when I was listening to it and working out, I was like, man, I would have killed all them motherfuckers, man. And then I'll start thinking about how they be having intercourse and, violating the animals. I would have killed all the animals too and put their ass out their misery, man. I'm not the best. I'm not perfect. I'll fuck up. But I'll try to be as, aligned with the mind of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai to the best of my ability, man. The authorship in which he wrote in my lot, man. Because sometimes, I'll be like wanting to say, fuck it, man. Just like yesterday, man, I was at Walmart. I hate to deviate, but I think this story is important. Pretty much having the mind of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, man, to the best of your ability. But I was at Walmart, and I remember a couple weeks ago that, this same bitch, wouldn't take me because I think it was like 2 minutes. I got there 2 minutes late. So when I was walking up, she just hurry up and closed the line. Oh, we closed. And in my mind, I was like, this fucking black bitch. Fucking demon. But yesterday I went and to get this money from Western Union, and she acted like she was tired. She said she was tired, so I give her the benefit of the doubt. It was the same woman, and she didn't count the money right the first time, man. She gave me $100 extra. And a lot of these retailers, man, if your drawer is short, I believe over $5, they're gonna either write you up or they're gonna terminate you, man. So she gave me an extra 100, and in my mind I was like, man, I have to keep this shit. But after I counted it, I have to keep this shit, man. I was thinking about it, but then I was like, what about Yahweh Shai, man? Isn't he not watching? So I was like, fuck it, man. I'm gonna just give her the money back and tell her to recount it, because I knew she gave me $100 over, and she counted it, and then she realized her mistake, man. And I felt good about doing the right thing, man. I feel like I did the right thing, man, because, if I've been in that predicament before. There was a time when I was in doing deliveries, I accidentally dropped a check. And, this is why, you can't judge by appearance, because some people they might look a certain ethnicity, but they might be a Jake. But this individual ran and gave me the check that I accidentally dropped, man. So it's good to walk in righteousness, man. And hey, the water Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai for putting the spirit on me to give that woman that money back, so she could recount it and see her error, and that possibly, might have saved her job. Instead of me just taking the money and doing, which, I need the money, but, I don't need it that bad, man. I need my blessings more. I need the blessings for doing righteousness more than I need the short triumph of doing wickedness. which goes back to, you know, King Saul, man. You know, he had the opportunity to do good and he chose to do the opposite. You know? But continuing in Genesis chapter 25, verse 24, it says, when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And I only said that just, you know, so brothers could always remember, just do the right thing, man. You know, because the angels are always watching, man. Yahweh Shai, represent them, man. Represent them the right way, man. You know? It says, and the first came out red. And the reason why he came out red, because he was born with no melanin. He was translucent. And mind you, they were always fighting. They were struggling. And he was probably getting his ass beat inside of the womb. That's the reason why when he was born, Jacob was holding his heel, which represents Jacob is going to be the ones that is going to pull Esau out of power, man. That's cold. Just they fighting all the time in the womb. Shit. Esau was probably came out that womb all beat up, man. You know? I think a lot of that wasn't just because, you know, his blood showed forth through his skin. I think he was getting his ass beat, man. Why else would Jacob be holding his heel as they're being born, man? It says all over like a hairy garment. And Esau, he's a hairy man. I watched this one video of this Edomite. He took his shirt off and it looked like the Wolf Man. And then I watched the comment. I was like, I read a comment. An individual was like, and they calling us monkeys. They look just like monkeys. They got the thin lips. They're hairy as hell. When you shave a monkey down, when you shear him, he got white skin too. But they got the nerve to call us monkeys, man. But, you know, they're naturally hairy, man. Like, over the top hairy, man. You know? It says, and they called his name Esau, which is Ashashua, which means wasted away is he, man. Because why was he wasted away? He had no melanin, man. Which now they're talking about how melanin is when they formulate it, they use it and formulate it and make it highly conducive, and it's like one of the highest conductors now. You know, that's why they have these data centers, which they want you Jakes, they want your melanin, man. And then, you know, rumor has it that the Israelis are now the top nation, if not in that region, maybe the world, that has the most supply of human skin because of that melanin, man. And that's why they send up these data centers where you Jakes live, man. Because they're going to start killing you. And they're going to be killing you for your melanin, man. You know? Look it up. Don't take my word for it. Got the white woman running and shit. But verse 26, it says, and after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel. Because Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followed. Jacob is gonna rip Esau from his power, man, from his throne. It says, and his name was called Jacob, which meant supplanter. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter. So if you do a quick Google search and type in poachers or even hunters, the majority of them is going to be a so-called white man, an Edomite. That's another breadcrumb that the Heavenly Father used to give you a few clues. It says, and Jacob was a plain man. So Jacob has the spirit of just being plain, man, being simple. Not intellectually, but lifestyle, man. You know, if Jake had his way, all he need is a woman to pop. You know, a little bit of yayan, some wine. You know, and to kick his feet back, man. You know, that's really what Jake want to do in this society. You know, get you a little something for the coffee table, a Coca-Cola shake. You know, get you some drink. You know, and go and chill at the house watching the TV, man. You know, so be at home. You know, having sessions. Popping your chick, and Jake is cool, right? It says dwelling in tents. So we dwelt in tents, man. We didn't dwell in these super skyscrapers where they got to put suicide nets in case someone is feeling suicidal and want to jump 120 something stories to their death, all because they might have lost a couple of bucks. You know? So, the scriptures show you who this damn devil is, man. You just have to have eyes to see and ears to hear, which the mass majority of you people don't. That's why we're not looking for the mass majority. We're setting these breadcrumbs out there to hopefully inspire the elect, man, for lack of better words, man, to help activate the elect, to stir their minds, or to quicken, if it be of Yahweh Shem Yahushua's will, man. Right? So I'm gonna go to core takeaway. Once again, the topic title of this camp is, who do you think you are, a God? Core takeaway. It says the scriptures repeatedly show rulers who thought they were gods, spoke as if their word was absolute truth, and ruled through oppression, but the Most High humbled every one of them. And Esau is going to be no different. He's being humbled now. But he's so arrogant that he don't even want to consider the lies that are being told to him, man. They actually think that they're just destroying Iran for the 1,000th time. But Iran keeps coming back like they Brandon Lee or something, man. In the movie The Crow. You know? How many times have the Babylonian military destroyed Iran, man? Because it's all lies. It's all bullshit, man. You know, they're getting their ass handed to them. But yeah, they are killing a lot of kids. A lot of children. But this is key Lashawan Kodash terms. It says Allahayim, which means powers, judges, mighty ones. Ga'awan, arrogancy, swelling pride. Rasha, wicked, guilty, criminal. Shapat, to judge, govern. Adawan, Lord, ruler. Right? So, the modern day Prince of Tyre, or Tyrus, is Esau. You know, this is Ezekiel chapter 28, verse 1. The word of Yahweh came again unto me, saying, Son of man, say unto the prince of Tyrus, thus saith Yahweh, because thy heart, which your heart is your mind, is lifted up. So Esau's heart, because, you know, Esau is the modern day prince of Tyrus. Esau's mind is lifted up, man. And it's basically lifted up upon lies. You know, because he's been lied to, just as he lied to the world. It says, and thou hast said, I am a power. So he thinks he's a power, or verbatim, a God, right? I sit in the seat of God, reading it verbatim, in the midst of the seas. And America is positioned in the midst of the seas, man. You got which they changed it. Now it's called the Gulf of America. And then you got the Atlantic. And then on the left side of America, going west, you got the Pacific. Two massive oceans that are separating the Eastern Hemisphere, man. Right? It says, yet thou art a man. So the Most High, when he returns, or when Yahweh Shah returns, he's going to show these damn devils that he's just a man. And then in the kingdom, everything's going to be revealed. And they're going to look at this damn devil as the POS that he is, and that he was created to be. They're going to know that he was Cain. They're going to know that he was Esau. They're going to know that he was saying nothing but lies. Right? It says, and not a God, though thou set thy heart as the heart of God. Behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. So the Most High allowed this devil to be from a base man in the vilest of the earth to the wiser than Daniel, man. And that's why he has this technology, which a lot of it came from Jake. Because Esau, he wouldn't allow Jake to get patents. So when Jake would invent something, Esau would take credit for it, man. That's why it says Jacob is the former of all things. But then you have these damn devils with their tropes talking about we was kings and shit. And then everything that we say that we were, which we could back up through history in the scriptures, they'll say, well, we was this and shit, we was that and shit. But one thing they refuse to be is the Dukes of Edom. You know, that's like the kryptonite of the so-called white man is the truth. And the kryptonite of the so-called black man is sin. You know? They refuse to entertain the truth. You know, they believe what they say is the end-all, be-all, and we're nothing but subservient, low IQ, sub-Saharan spear chuckers. You know? According to what they leave on these comment boards, what they upload in these videos, and even the interactions that brother may have with these damn devils, man. And then when you watch them talk among each other, there's a hierarchy among them. It's like the Yacha and the Predators, man. There's a hierarchy of Yachas. You know? And Amalek will probably have to be the elder clan leader or something, man. Leading the Yacha. Which the Yacha are really supposed to be Jakes. It says, there is no secret that they can hide from thee. So going to Copilot, because thy heart is lifted up, dealing with verse 2, says, layman terms, the ruler of Tyre acted like he was a divine being. His pride made him delusional. So Esau's pride has made him delusional, man. That's why it's a waste of time even conversing with these assholes, man. It's a deaf adder, a deaf snake. It's gonna go in one ear and out the other, man. Because their kryptonite is the truth. And their fuel that soups them up is lies and bullshit, man. Because that's all they spew is just lies and bullshit, and then their bullshit statistics. Which I made a comment, is like, you need to have a third party to come in and make sure that these statistics are true. But that would be to no avail, because all these heathen nations are in cahoots with each other, man. We're in the time of the Gentiles. Mind you, this is the accuser of our brethren, man, that accused them before the Lord day and night. So how do we know that these statistics are true, man? They're probably just as made up as the rest of the history that he spews out of his mouth, man. It says, keyword ga'awa, swelling pride. Right? So continuing, I'll read verse 3 again. It says, behold, thou art wiser than Daniel, Danya Allah. There is no secret that they can hide from thee. With thy wisdom and with thy understanding, how thou hast gotten thee riches. And yeah, he got his riches through great robbery, murder, breaking treaties, waiting till the strong man left to thieve and ransack villages. You know, when these damn devils have amnesia to the fact when they first came over here, they didn't even know how to survive on this land. So much for some conquering. The kindness of our people taught them how to survive on this land, man. Else they would have died, along with the rats and the mice that they brought with them, man. And the filth and the disease. You know? It says, and has gotten gold and silver into thy treasures, because they confiscated that gold and that silver, man. Look at what they're doing in present time. They're still showing you the pattern that they have always shown you throughout centuries, stealing everybody's shit, taking everybody's resources, because they have that blessing, which is the sword. But now you see Iran is really testing their chin. Iran is putting belt to ass, man. And they're saying that they ain't really even got started yet. And this is how you know it's bad, when the use of nuclear weapons rhetoric is circulating so frequently, man. You know? But we already know they're getting their ass handed to them based upon the word of Yahweh Shai, who is a man that he should not lie. We know according to prophecy, dealing with 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter, it ain't going well for him, man. That's why they're talking about the use of nuclear weapons, which already been brought out years ago. In order to destroy their underground military bases, they got to use nukes. They got to use a combination of bunker busters, and they got to use nukes. That's the only way they're gonna get through that granite, man. You know, which Iran's military is dug deep in that granite. And then they're talking about a ground invasion. Well, the whole country is united now, man. That whole country is gonna fight against these damn devils. You know, it says, by thy great wisdom and by thy traffic. And that traffic means exactly what it is. Shipping, you know, what do they call it, aviation, you know, trains, automobiles, you know, tourism. That's that traffic, because everyone comes to America to live that American dream, man. Which now it's not a dream anymore. To only the deluged, those that are still in delusion, they might feel like, oh, there's still money to be made, but you know, this place needs a resuscitation. You know, if you ever seen someone die, they wheeze, or they you know, it's like a wheezing that they do, that the body does. That's the point where we're at with Esau, man. You know, and it just so happens this is the 250th year where they say empires fall, right? It says, by thy great wisdom and by thy traffic hast thou increased thy riches, and thy heart, your mind, is lifted up because of thy riches. Because now they became the #1 superpower, man. After they basically, as they say, conquered the earth. You know? And according to Psalms 49 and 11, they think that it's going to continue forever, man. Which you heathens and you Israelites don't understand, that if it was to continue forever, there would no flesh be saved, man. They're going to kill everybody, even their own. You know? It says, therefore thus saith Yahweh, because thou hast set thy heart as the heart of the Most High, behold, therefore I will bring strangers upon thee. Right, and that's starting with the Russians, which is Gog, and then their coalition, and then you're gonna have Iran, and you're gonna have those Gulf nations, the dragons of Arabia. They're gonna turn on America and Israel, and then also NATO, the beast. They're gonna burn the whore spoken of in Revelation, the 17th chapter, with fire, which is going to be thermonuclear fire, man. You know? It says, the terrible of the nations, and they shall draw their swords, which is those missiles, against the beauty of thy wisdom, and they shall defile thy brightness. They shall bring thee down to the pit, which that pit represents destruction, man. And that brightness, you could say, represents this man's so-called glory. Right? It says, and thou shalt die the deaths of them that are slain in the midst of the seas, because they're never to be found again, man. Which aligns up with the book of Obadiah, Esau being cut off forever, man. You can't cremate a nigga that's in the sea. And have an urn on a tabletop commemorating his existence. Or you can't bury a nigga in a coffin and put him in the grave and have his tombstone to say, you know, pay your respects or whatever, put flowers on his tombstone. Not when you buried in the, not when you drowned in the sea. That's it. If you even make it to the bottom. You know, you're probably going to be torn apart by, you know, all the predatory animals, the sharks, the orcas, you know, even going down to the ocean floor. You probably be, you know, fragments or, you know, fecal matter about time you hit the ocean floor, man. Never to be remembered. That's how you so-called white people are gonna meet your end. It says, will thou yet say before him that slayeth thee, I am God? Yeah, like the perfect example of Esau is Homelander, man. And we seen how he went out. That motherfucker, he was proud as hell. And I didn't even watch that, TV series, The Boys. But, you know, seeing different clips, that asshole was proud as hell, man. And look at his end. He said you know what? He'll give the nigga fellatio if he spare him, man. He went out sad, man. And still got blunt force trauma to his dome, man. And he out of there, man. He lost his immortality and he out of there, man. That's Esau, man. Homelander. You know? It says, but thou shalt be a man and know God in the hand of him that slayeth thee. Thou shalt die the deaths of the uncircumcised by the hand of the strangers, for I have spoken it, saith Yahweh. You know, so going back to co-pilot, it says, wilt thou say, I am God? Yahweh rejects the ruler's claim to divinity. And that's how these Edomites operate. They think they're invincible, man. You know, they think that their military equipment, they all got force fields that can't be penetrated. You know, when you see them being destroyed in real time, oh, it's AI. No, that's AI, man. It's fake, man. There's no way. Come on, man. You can see it's AI. If it's AI, why are you motherfuckers still over there, man? I thought the victory was won last year. And you people are stupid to not see and tell that Trump is lying to you, man. He blatantly lies to you stupid people and you eat it all up, man. You see Trump, man, you know, Trump already destroyed him like 1,000 times, but we're gonna go over there and destroy him again. How stupid can you people be, man? And you got the nerve to talk about other people's IQs? You know, you a bunch of dummies, man. You know, but that's the spirit that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua wants you to be in, because what does it say in Proverbs the 16th chapter? It says, pride goeth before destruction and a haughty look before a fall, man. And your fall is going to be like an anvil, you know, hitting the earth, man. It says, layman terms, when judgment hits, his I am God talk disappears, man. And that's why, or at least you can see it in the countenance, you can see it in the spirit of these devils' faces, man. It's not going as planned over there in the Middle East dealing with Iran, man. And real soon, man, a lot of you're going to have to pick and choose where you want to be at, man. It ain't going to be no going state to state. Wherever you're at is probably where you're going to be at, man, unless you get spiritual powers. And you could teleport like Nightcrawler, which would be dope. And it's possible. All things are possible until Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, man. You know? But, you know, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua is going to be with his elect, man. Yahushua Ratazah be a part of that number. And the Most High extends his mercy onto me as he's been doing, man. You know, if I can't say nothing, I have to give him, you know, his praise and his glory just for answering my prayers and allowing me to come out here, man. You know? But this is Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12. It says, how art thou fallen from heaven? Which, you know, the heaven represents power. Oh, Lucifer, which Hollywood, you know, has warped your minds. You know, Lucifer just means light bearer, the one that's in power. And the current Lucifer right now is Esau. The real Lucifer is Yahweh Shai. who the world inly calls Jesus Christ. Because he's going to be the light bearer in the kingdom of heaven once this place is destroyed, man. You know? It says, son of the morning, how art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? Right. And that's what they're going to be saying about you damn devils. How are you cut down to the ground that weaken the nations, that were destroying the nations? See, Esau, he has a lot of blood on his hands, man. Because why? He has the same spirit as Cain, coming back as Esau. And what did Esau say? I'm going to slay my brother as soon as Isaac passed away, man. And then he carried that same sentiment all the way to this day. And they talk about victimhood, man. They've been playing the victim since the 1746 BCE. You know, thinking that's the year that they turned 40, man. You know? It says, for thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of the Most High. Which the stars of the Most High are you people on this sign, man. And he has exalted his throne above us, man. He put us into subjection, which he was prophesied to do in the first place, man, when he received his blessing. When it talked about him receiving dominion. We're in the time of his dominion, which is really, you know, him fighting tooth and nail to solely have it for himself. But as the scriptures say, we're in the time of the Gentiles. These heathen nations are trying to get their little, you know, piece of it as well, man. It says, I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. And that's why he's headquartered in the northern hemisphere, man. It says, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds, even with his space stations and his space missions, his space programs, his space force. And that's when the decline started. That's when they say is when time started to speed up. Around 1968, going into 1969, when Abba Bivens, aka John the Baptist, came on the scene, as he was prophesied to do, man. See, a lot of you niggas out there, you know, you fail to realize a lot of these men that are patriarchs, that are top prophets in the scriptures, they already came and went, man. You know, one nigga on Instagram saying that he's Elijah, which Elijah is Ariella, High Priest Ariah. That's what I believe. A lot of you niggas is behind closed doors among simple, well, I ain't gonna say simple, man, but among men are trying to profess that you're King David, man, which I had a dream. For some odd reason, the Most High gives me a lot of dreams that pertain to this truth. I had a dream that it was King Mashai who was King David, man. And that's what I believe, man. I believe King Mashai is King David, and that's why every video I opened up saying such. You know? So Abba Bivens was John the Baptist. You know, John in the Bible and Elijah was High Priest Ariah. And then, you know, that's all I'm gonna say, man. You know, oh yeah, King Mashal was King David. You know? So, all you niggas out here trying to, and for the record, I don't think I said I was Job. I said my lot is similar to his. I could resonate with his lot. But I'm not Job, man. I'm Isaac Milwaukee. You know, I don't know who the fuck I was, man. You know? For all I know, I was just that hoe that didn't want to go away. You know, because we like hoes out here standing on these street corners for our Lord, man. Rain, sleet, or snow. Now, I don't know who I was in my past life. I know I wasn't King Saul, because I would have killed all them Amalekites. That would have been a done deal. I would have told them, say less. Yahweh Shah Ratazah, man. You know? So, I know I wasn't Judas, because why would Judas be given dreams of Yahweh Shai, you know, being marred the way he was and pressing it against my face, and then within the dream he said I was forgiven. You know, so there are certain things that the Most High gives to certain men to help them on their walk. Especially when you feel like giving up. Because he's always going to lift the elect up, man. The righteous man falls 7 times, but getteth back up. That 7 is a complete amount of times. And then, you know, another is your prayers get answered, man. Yahweh Hashem Yahushua is not answering the prayers of a wicked motherfucker, man. You know? So all you do, and it kind of like, you know, it almost formulates a bad taste in your mouth, and I understand where the apostles is coming from, man. And you know, Salakia. You know, 'cause when I'm in my feelings and shit, I'll be saying some bullshit. You know, but I believe Yahweh Hashem Yahushua knows my heart. Else, I wouldn't be out here, man. I damn sure wouldn't be out here. I wouldn't be trying, man. I wouldn't be trying to do the right thing. I wouldn't be trying to be a man after Yahweh Hashem Yahushua's heart, man. And the reason why I'm saying these things is so you, if you're not doing it, could apply it, man. You know, because it's not about me. It's about that mindset. That mindset of the Heavenly Father and His Son, man. And striving for that mindset no matter what circumstance, man. And, you know, even going back to 1 John chapter 2, verse 19, you know, that's dealing with doctrine, man. If, you know, something happens and you get removed from a camp, whether you get kicked out or you leave, which I pray, and I'm not saying, I'm no longer going to say nothing negative, but I prayed to leave. You know, to do the work in Fresno. One of the main reasons, and you know, don't take it the wrong way, the main reason, the nail in the coffin was I don't want to be asleep or intoxicated and taken advantage of, man. I don't want people taking pictures of me with my head in another brother's crotch. A real brother would have just set me up the right way, knowing that I'm driving 3 hours after working all week, 10-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts. A real brother would have just set me up or woke me up instead of taking pictures and then showing me the pictures, and then that same day another nigga that's no longer in the troop points a gun at me. You know, so, and this individual had it was a repeated pattern that he'll either wait till I'm asleep or wait till I'm intoxicated to do something to me. And I'm thinking this is a brother. Remember one time he was like, yeah, I was trying to get him to denounce Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. Like, who the fuck does that, man? You know, so I don't like that, man. That's like some weirdo shit, taking pictures and like sexually suggestive pictures, man. You know? And in my mind, I'm thinking if somebody in the world did that to somebody else in the world, I think they would have killed their ass, or at least beat their ass real bad. You see how a nigga like Whack 100 will get mad when niggas sex playing, man. How do you think he would have felt if an individual was taking pictures that were sexually suggestive, as if he was sucking another brother's dick, man? You know? And then, you know, all the bullshit personal attacks that they called rebuke. And then I was catching hell from the individuals that I was camping with. But then, you know, when you think about it, they said that Job was a wicked man. They counted him to be of the wicked. Which is okay, cool, man, whatever. That's like like I said, whatever. I still believe that Yahweh Shem Yahushua is looking after me, man. And the water Yahweh Shem Yahushua, man. You know, that's why it says, who could be against you if Yahweh Shem Yahushua is for you, man? And can't none of you save me. Can't none of you save me, man. Only Yahweh can, and he's been the only one that has. I don't look to anything else or to anyone else, and when he feels it necessary to, you know, remove himself, then I'll just die. I'm only here because of him, man. Facts. Because if it wasn't for him, I'll just go back to the spirit world, man. You know? But going back to co-pilot, no, let me read verse 16 and verse 17. It says verse 15, Isaiah chapter 14, verse 15, it says, "Yet thou shalt be brought down to the hell, to the sides of the pit. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee." Yeah, because hell also represents slavery, man. That also, when it talks about the cup, that represents slavery, man. It says, "And consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms?" That's going to be the end of you so-called white people's glory. They're going to look at you narrowly, meaning in disgust. Is this the one that shake kingdoms? Is this the one that made the earth to tremble? This guy? Right? It says, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness, and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners. And that's why, with his insecure ass, he has these people all locked up in these prisons, man. He designs his laws to attack the spirit of these people, man. You know, he sets up his think tanks on how we can get these people in prison. Oh, we'll do it through rap music. Because little do a lot of people know, all those rap songs got to get cleared by the label before they get released. And they all got a certain agenda. The women rap about the same shit. The men rap about the same shit. It's all the agenda. You know, even with sports. Which, all that's set up, man. We need a soap opera type of, for lack of better words, acting. going on, man. A lot of these times, these people in these sports, when they get in trouble, oh, that's just a setup, man. Just to make Jake look bad. Oh, he got all that money and he's still acting like a nigga. But then when they go to court, they get slaps on the wrist. Because it's all designed to demonize you niggas and put you niggas in prison to continually to subjugate you. Because they have to have you in this state of mind in order to keep their power. But now they say you're insufferable, so now they're just gonna start killing you for your melanin, man. And powering up their fourth industrial revolution, which is gonna be the internet of everything. Right? It says, all the kings of the nations, even all of them, lie in glory, everyone in his own house. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, and as the remnant of those that are slain, thrust through with the sword, that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass trodden under feet. Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land. Yeah, because America's going to get wiped off the face of the earth, man. And slain thy people, the seed of evildoers shall never be renowned. Right, so this is the seed of evildoers that shall never be renowned, that think that they're gods, but they are no gods. Right? And this is also the next scripture. The next verse, the next precept is a regeneration scripture. It says, prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers, because it's their fathers coming back to face that judgment of all the atrocities that they committed. You know? It says that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. You know, so they're never gonna build again, man. And really, they stole a lot of this stuff that they claim that they were the architect of the architects. But going back to Copilot, for the king who said he ascended above the stars, layman terms, a ruler tried to elevate himself to heavenly status, to ascend, keyword elay. And this is the same spirit coming back of Antiochus, Epiphanes, which I believe Epiphanes means God manifest. Which you know how he died. He had he was rotten from the inside, man. You know, the Most High put a dis-ease in his body to the which he was rotten from the inside, man. And people can't even bear to be around his ass. This is Daniel chapter 8, verse 23. It says, and in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding, dark sentences shall stand up. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. Which this is Antiochus Epiphanes. And through his policy, they're always talking about their policies, right? Also, he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. And these people are all about craft. You know? And he shall magnify himself in his heart, in his mind, and by peace shall destroy many. And that's been the MO of Esau. By peace he shall destroy many. Right? Let's go to Psalms chapter 55. Verse 21, it says, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. And you're seeing this spirit of him playing out in real time just with Iran. Talking about we're trying to negotiate, then they'll bomb them. Trying to do a peace deal, then they'll bomb them. You know, or we got to invade Karg Island. Be the beneficiaries of all that oil. So this devil is showing his horns. So going back to Daniel chapter 8, verse 25, it says, and through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. And that's the same manner in which, you know, Antiochus went out. Is going to be the same manner in which Esau goes out today, because Esau, you know, he's going to be destroyed with fire, man. Yahweh Shah is going to bring his armies, the chariots. You know, Yahweh is going to open up his armory and let off the missiles. You know, even in these times, he's going to be broken without hand, man. Just like Antiochus was or had succumbed to that stomach illness, man. And then I believe he got beaten up by angels. You know, put that nigga in the asphalt like in that movie Don't Be a Menace while drinking your juice in the hood, man. And the whole block was taking turns stomping that nigga out, man. Going back to co-pilot, it says Antiochus Epiphanes, the God manifest tyrant. Laban terms, a king who literally named himself God manifest is broken without hand. Epiphanes means manifestation. So he said that he was the manifestation of God, man. That's why he was basically trying to set up a new world order and put everybody as one, with one law, one religion, etc., etc. This is First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 41. It says, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. You know, fast forward to today, they're always talking about a new world order, man. You know, that entails everyone being as one. It says, and everyone shall leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yeah, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. For the king has sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Yahweh that they should follow the strange laws of the land. And that's what, you know, they want us to do, man. Because then that removes us from our power, man. That removes us from Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. You know? So that's exactly what they want us to do. Going back to co-pilot, it says he outlawed the Most High's laws and forced his own as absolute truth. And that's what these damn devils want to do today, man. They want to enforce their so-called absolute truth, which is really not absolute. It's nothing but lies. You know, lies and bullshit. But they're going to get a rude awakening, man. just like Antiochus. This is 2 Maccabees chapter 9, verse 12. I'm going to start at verse 9. This is 2 Maccabees chapter 9, verse 9. So that the worms rose up out of the body of this wicked man. Remember I was telling you about that rot? You know? It says, and whilst he lived in sorrow and pain, his flesh fell away, and the filthiness of his smell was noisome to all his army. They couldn't stand to be around him, because he stank. And he was an Edomite, so he already had a natural funk. Why you think Isaac always talked about Esau being or smelling like a man of the field, like he been in the mud all damn day, man? Yes, it smells like a field. Not to be jolting, you know, but that's what he said. He said, my son smells like a man of the field. So you know he was funky, man. And they got a natural funk to him, man. That's why, you know, you can only imagine the smell of Antiochus on top of him even having the rottenness in his stomach. It says, and the man that thought a little afore he could reach to the stars of heaven, no man could endure to carry for his intolerable stink. You know? Shit. It says here, therefore, being plagued, he began to leave off his great pride and to come to the knowledge of himself by the scourge of the Most High, his pain increasing every moment. So the Most High was causing his pain to increase, man. You know, he probably wanted to off himself, but he kept that proud ass spirit on him, man. It says, and when he himself could not abide his own smell, so he couldn't even stand his own stank. That's how you know it was bad. He said these words, it is meet to be subject unto the Most High, and that a man that is mortal should not proudly think of himself if he were God. And that's the same humility that the Most High is going to give you so-called white people again in these days, man. It says this wicked person vowed also unto Yahweh, who now no more would have mercy upon him, saying thus, that the holy city to the which he was going in haste to lay it even with the ground, and to make it a common burying place, he was set at liberty. And as touching Yahweh, whom he had judged not worthy so much as to be buried, but to be cast out with their children to be devoured of the fowls and wild beasts. This is going back to that same perpetual hatred, man. Going into Ezekiel the 35th chapter. Going into Genesis the 27th chapter. That these Edomites have, you know, became a victim to. You know, that's why you gotta reverse Uno card these pieces of shit. Why are you still playing the victim? You know, that was centuries ago you sold your birthright. It was from the foundation of the earth that you were rejected. Get over it. We got next. It says, but to be cast out with their children, to be devoured of the fowls and wild beasts, who will make them all equals to the citizens of Athens. And Athens is in Greece. Showing you our people were scattered, man. We weren't just in Israel, man. We were all over. But they want you to believe we were just in Africa spear chucking, which the first slaves came from Tarshish, man, which is Spain. You know? But we're set up only to give the elect the truth. All you other people, you're not going to get the truth. You're going to be destroyed here. Going back to co-pilot, says layman terms, when dying, he confesses he is mortal. And that's that pride going before destruction, man. The book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 1, it says, the vision of Obadiah, thus saith Yahweh concerning Edom, which is Adawam, which means red. Right? It says, we have heard a rumor, which is a report from Yahweh. And an ambassador was the first ambassador was the Egyptian president Abdul Nazir. Is sent among the heathen, arise ye and let us rise up against her in battle. So the whole time the Most High has been gathering these nations and building these nations to go into these woes. You know, you got the first one, the second one, and now we're in the third one, man, which is these world wars. That's the only reason why you nations are built up and prospering, man. You got your militaries and so on and so forth, because the Heavenly Father is getting ready to destroy you. No ifs, ands, or buts. They got walk. I think it is a state highway. It says, behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, which this doesn't mean numbers. It means that, you know, it explains in the next portion, it says, thou art greatly despised. Yeah, they're despised, man. And it all starts with Amalek, man. The people, all the world, even other Edomites are starting to hate Amalek, which is those so-called Jews. You know? It says, the pride of thy heart have deceived thee, so that the pride of your mind, man. It always talks about your pride, man. Your arrogancy. Right? Thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock. And it just so happens you even call yourselves cave dweller. In the form of being Caucasian, man. You know? And that's just a clue for the elect. It says whose habitation is high. Right. What your habitat is where you live at, man. And even behind me there's a huge ass building, man. That's where you like to use as a abode, man. Your domicile, man. Right? These high rises, these skyscrapers. Right? Because it reminds you of the Caucasus Mountains and the mountain range in South Jordan, man. You know? It says, that saith in his mind, who shall bring me down to the ground? Which is once again going into that arrogancy, man. Not knowing that the Heavenly Father, he sets up kings and he removeth kings, man. We're in a time in which he's about to remove kings. And then set up his son as king. You know? And he's going to remove you with nuclear destruction. There's going to be a nuclear holocaust. You know? It says, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle. Right? Not only do they use the eagle as their mascot, but They have the spirit of the eagle, of being proud, man. The highest flying bird. Sometimes the eagle will just kill just to kill, man. Just because it ain't got nothing better to do. And then their defense, they build the largest nest out of all birds. Some, they say, weigh tons. You know? It says, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, that the nest is his defense. The Space Force, all the weapons point toward Earth and toward outer space, man. Thence will I bring thee down, saith Yahweh. And he's been seeing a decline ever since the Apollo missions, man. It says, if thieves came to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Would they not have stolen till they had enough? If the grape gatherers came to thee, would they not leave some grapes? Right, because a normal thief wouldn't just ransack the whole house and clean it out, man. Like as if they had U-Haul trucks lined up, and they was gonna take the carpet in the padding. They was either gonna try to chip the paint off the walls, man. That's how Esau moves, man. He wants everything. Even the bolts that are blowing down the fucking toilet. And then he's gonna, oh, we conquered. It was cause we conquered. No, you just a damn devil, man. Why are these other nations in a third world and proud? Because you stole all their resources. Mind you, Europe is a bottomless pit. It don't got no natural resources, man. So the way that you obtain it was through lies, through rape, through robbery, through murder, through oppression. There's a reason why your judgment is 1,000 years of slavery and then exterminated, man. No, that's not just Most High just, being mean to you, man. That's what you deserve. It says, how are the things that Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? Which is hidden things is the things that he tries to bury, man, for people not to find out. But the spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai only needs to work with the 33.33%, man, the 1/3, the elect, for him to bring you damn devils to your knees. Going back to co-pilot, it says, the pride of thy heart have deceived thee. Layman terms, arrogant rulers think they're untouchable. Key word, Ga'awan, which means pride. For verse 4, it says, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle. Layman terms, even if a ruler reaches the highest heights, Yahweh brings him down. Now, this verse applies to the Israelites, but I'm going to use it anyway. It says, this is Psalms chapter 82, verse 6. I have said, ye are gods, which means powers, and all of you are children of the Most High, which is dealing with the Israelites, right? It says, but ye shall die like men and fall like one of the princes, right? So Esau, he considers himself a god, but he's going to fall like a regular man and die like one of the princes, man. And Barak Yahweh Shem Yahweh the water Yahweh Shem Yahweh Salak Yahweh Shem Yahweh 144. You know? They got these self-driving cars and shit, which now they're remotely controlled. I think they passed a law that stated that they need to be remotely controlled, and that whoever's driving them has to have a valid driver's license. Because they tired these fucking cars just dying in the middle of the road or causing accidents and crashes and shit. Showing you that there's flaws in Esau's technology, which is his miracles. You know? So going back to co-pilot, it says, ye are gods, but ye shall die like men. Layman's terms. Even powerful rulers die like everyone else. And Trump ain't gonna be no different. Esau ain't gonna be no different. This is Psalms chapter 49, verse 11. It says their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever. So they think that they're going to continue forever. Man, forever? Forever, ever? That's the mind state of these damn devils, man. They think that they're going to go on for eternity, which they're not. The Most High is about to get ready to nip their ass in the bud, man. It says in their dwelling places to all generations, they call their lands after their own names. And that's why all these cities, all these streets, all these towns, some of these states are named after them, man. Right? It says, nevertheless, man being in honor abideth not. He is like the beasts that perish. Right? Going back to co-pilot, it says, man in honor who understands not. Layman terms, a ruler who thinks he's more than human is like a beast. Because they're going to die. Short life expectancy for most beasts. According to Esau. You know, I have to say that. According to Esau. This is Job chapter 20, verse 6. It says, though his excellency mount up to the heavens, dealing with his pride, right? And the joy of the hypocrite, but for, Slakia. Though his excellency mount up to the heavens, and his head reach onto the clouds, yet he shall perish forever like his own dung. Which dung is an ancient way of saying excrement or shit. Just as you know, you don't have no remembrance of the loudest bowel movement that you flushed down the toilet, man. That's how this guy's gonna go out, man. Right? It says, they which have seen him shall say, where is he?
The Great Depression.
Because he's gonna get cut off forever, man. He's never gonna exist again. You know, that's the judgment that the Most High has for these people, man. To be cut off forever. And this whole Iran war is the start of that judgment, man. That's why it hasn't let up. It's continuing. It's escalating. To now they're worried about Russia. They're worried about China. They're worried about North Korea joining the fight. But little do they know, all these nations are going to turn against them, man. And then ultimately, Yahweh Shah and his armies are going to crack those clouds and lay the smack at the downeth on this damn devil, man. You know? And that's going to be one of the most hilarious moments in all history, man. To see a proud piece of shit be humbled. You know? We was dukes and shit. Ooh, I can't wait to that day. I'm like, we was dukes and shit, Billy. Right? So going back to co-pilot layman terms, it says, it's quoting the wicked who mount up to the heavens. Layman terms, their pride ends in decay. This is Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18. It says, pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Right? So Esau's, he's about to meet his destruction, man. He's about to meet his fall. You know? Layman terms, going back to co-pilot, says every arrogant ruler eventually falls, man. And you Edomites are no different. You're going to meet your end as well. Right? And how do we know that we're in the time of your rule? Is Proverbs 29:2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. People are not rejoicing, man. They fighting, they bickering, wars are going on, they're hating each other. They're living in poverty. They're oppressed. And this is your rule, man. They don't know if they want to be a man or a woman. They don't know if they want to be a man or a woman, man. That's wickedness, man. So we know that the righteous are not in authority because nobody's rejoicing, man. The mirth is gone from this place. Even this city, this is one of the last few cities that is trying to maintain that mirth. But it's going out of it's circling down the drain, man. With tourism being low as it is. And people are now they're not moving out here no more. From rumors, from reports, they're not moving to Vegas anymore. You know? It says, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. People are in mourning, man. You know, like the nigga that got his dog killed in the last kill. You know, in that Punisher short movie, man. He was mourning, man. He was mourning the whole movie. He wanted payback. That's why he said that's not all he took. No, he said that's not all that he took from me. You know? Going back to co-pilot says, when the wicked rule, the people mourn. Layman terms, oppressive rulers cause suffering. Right? It just slipped my mind. I saw a clip with the nigga Adonis, the realist, aka Gorilla Peg Brew. Now he wants to be a podcaster. You know, reminiscing and shit. Talking about hip hop, hippity hop, and that bullshit, man. Which this music is all fucking played out, man. You know, sometimes I listen to it, but I only listen to certain artists. I can't listen to all that fucking trap drill music and shit like that, man. You know, and then, you know, I've been listening to Future. But, you know, it's all the same shit. How many drugs you gonna take? How many other niggas bitches you gonna fuck, man? And you're talking about the same shit on every single song. You know? So what I usually do, I just put on some rock and roll or some heavy metal, man. Some Korn or some Deftones or some Pantera, some Marilyn Manson, Metallica. You know, 21 Pilots, if you know, I'm feeling the urge. You know, this music is trash, man. Same with female rap, man. You know, because I saw some clips from the BET Awards and I saw her set, so I wanted to listen to some of her songs. That shit's trash. All it is feminism, man, and women empowerment and shitting on the man, and trying to find this build a man that they'll never be able to find, man. That's why she's a baby mother with multiple fathers, man. Because these women have such unrealistic expectations for themselves, man. And then you got some of these niggas out here that got unrealistic expectations for themselves too, man. They think that them going to the gym, they think people are looking at them because, you know, they're so handsome and shit, man. Which is like a fat bitch that is always complaining about niggas trying to holler at her. And you know it's not true. You know? Like that big fucking transgender that hangs with that one Aiden Ross, man. Like that motherfucker trying to say, oh, these niggas always trying to holler at me. Ain't nobody trying to holler at your ugly ass. That's you trying to cope, man. You know? And going back to the nigga, the bitch probably looking at you because he say that she has a dude that she goes to the gym with. They probably just in the car talking shit about you just by the way you fucking work out, like a fucking weirdo. And then you trying to rebuke people on your comment boards going into how your weird ass be working out, man. And your mind is just totally fucking gone, man. I had to pinpoint it. I was like, do you got a father? Okay, you say you got a father. He's in your life. Okay, did your father have a father? Because you got that whole shit in you from somewhere. You know? And I'll tell you like this, man. Going to the gym and being physically strong really doesn't translate to street fighting, man. You could ask Larry Wills, man. Every time he gets his big ass in the dojo, he be getting rocked by dudes half his weight that can't lift nearly what he lifts. He be getting choked out. He be tapping out. You know? A lot of the times, that's all just show. That's ostentatious view. Big muscles and shit. And you can't even scratch your back or wipe your ass right, man. You know? It works good for intimidation, but what about those that ain't intimidated? Just because you lift a certain amount of weight don't mean you can beat everybody's ass. Sometimes that shit don't translate, man. And the key is not to underestimate nobody, because a bitch can kill you. A bitch will chop your head off, man. What you think is so soft and weak, that motherfucker will kill you, man. Whether it be physically, spiritually, or emotionally. You know? But this is Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse 11. It says, because sentence against the evil work is not executed speedily. So Esau had all this time to, you know, think that the Most High was with him, man, because judgment wasn't executed speedily. And this also applies to Israelites as well, man. That ain't right. And like I said, if I'm not right, if I ain't a hopeful elect, I don't like wasting nobody's time, man. I'm not a person that forces myself upon people, man. It's either you rocking or you not. That's how they do it in Vegas. They run stop signs on red lights. And then and fucking shoot little kids because of road rage. That's why this is a wicked city, man. You know? It says, therefore the heart, the mind of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. You know? So I'm going to go ahead and end it. I got a few scriptures left. I got about 5 more precepts left, but I got to go. I'm going to be, Yahweh Shai Ratazah, I'm going to be out here tomorrow, though. So with that, I hope at least one brother of the elect was edified, and I'm going to say shalom.